Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Riv, and Monday after a nice weekend. Got a little thunder showers yesterday. Supposed to get one today, and yes, the propaganda mill continues. Uh, I got a report this morning that WSAR was crowing, talking about all the beautification of the Flint and the guy who's doing it, and what a great, they're giving him more press. He's already gotten something from the city council. Isn't it amazing how this parallels the way they do it on a federal level? You notice how they always got the media propping up Joe Biden. Oh, there's nothing wrong. He's fine. And then now everybody's horrified. They're ready to jump off the bridge. So what is this? Is this a political maneuver? You know what the Dems always do? Everything's Trump's fault. Biden. The border's Trump's fault, even though it was the safest border in history. Inflation's his fault. They took over at 9%. No, it was 1.4%. They lied. So what are they going to do? I think the president of the Flint Neighborhood Association is contemplating a mayoral run, so they're going to try to undermine him with this propaganda thing about the Flint. And you know the irony? Listen, I was born here, brought up here, lived here my entire life, fundamentally. My entire life. When I first got out of the military, I lived on the corner of Jefferson and Brayton Avenue until I bought my house, which wasn't a long time, but that's almost like close to the Flint. Quequechan Street, I could throw a rock to the house I lived on Quequechan Street, almost from where I was on Jefferson. So listen, I'm pretty familiar with the Flint. Let me tell you something. Flower pots and painting plywood murals. Like I said, one man's mural is another man's graffiti. I drove down Pleasant Street the other day. I saw a couple of flower pots and they were chained. What message does that send, bozos? You think they have to chain flower pots in Newton? No. It's telling you that the neighborhood, that you're going to have people urinating in them or stealing them. You got to chain things. It's like when you walk into now they lock up everything in the drugstores. Is that a message that this is a safe city? No. But the propaganda begins. They have a new anointed savior. And everybody going, oh, yeah, say, no, he's negative. I'm not negative. It's just realistic. What is behind the plywood mural? Nothing. Those buildings are unoccupied. We don't have businesses. Their answer is to bring people here who aren't really never going to come in any amount to affect it. Just like the Derby horses. The carousel was going to bring thousands of tourists. All these panaceas for our problems. The cure-all for everything. And it's all manure. Political manure. Because nothing's fixed Fall River. It's gotten progressively worse. Why? Our people aren't working. We need to train our people. We need to get them to work. We need to encourage small businesses, and small businesses cannot survive in a city with people with no money. That's why you don't see small business. Another small business just went out of business, Ed's Barbecue. But this is the thing. But this is what I like about the political season. The bullshit goes into warp speed. Scotty, let's go to warp speed. And They're
Look at all
already,
we got.
yeah. Yeah. Captain, I can't. But it was like, I'm a Trekkie like you, so it's like I love Star Trek. But you know, this thing that these optics fix things. No, no. Cars without engines don't run. City with people with no income are broke, and they don't support small businesses, which are the economic engine of the city. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you because I thought it was pretty funny. I can't wait for the next one, but maybe I am a conspiracy theorist, but I can smell one of their attack lines. Oh, they never did anything for the Flint. Look, this guy's rehabbing the Flint because he loves the Flint. Yeah, okay, sure. Listen, Kathy Assad was a wonderful, wonderful person. I knew her. I knew her father. I used to hang around in her father's store when I was a kid. I knew her whole family. Great, great lady, worked their butt off, and was very, very friendly with most of the mayors. And even with mayoral help, not much was done. She did the Flint Pride, which is good. Try to get your community together. But let's look at then and now. They ran a lot of those things. Now, every time the Flint Association tries to do anything, the mayor says, no, you can't have the park, you can't have this, you can't have that. Because why? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want this guy to look good. Maybe he wants to say, oh, look what I'm doing at the Flint. Well, all I know is that you're pushing people out of their houses. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Well, let me tell you, when this started of the Flint revitalization, um, it wasn't done cooperatively. I had sent a message to Mr. Sylvia to contact Carlos to work with him. He never did. I contacted Carlos to contact Mr. Sylvia. He did. And I guess he met with resistance or something. Carlos and the Flint Neighborhood Association has, for decades, cleaned up the sidewalks, the parks, the Quequechan Rail Trail, and even the Quequechan River. Carlos was out there picking tires out of that river. He bent over backwards and still bends over backwards for the Flint. And now the mayor's coming after him again. Carlos started the movies in the parks. Carlos started the free movies. This man picked up on it. And then Carlos wasn't allowed to have them anymore. Carlos used to bring a carnival into Fall River. And he had mayors approve them, overriding the park board. Now, for the past several years, every time the Flint Neighborhood Association has tried to bring a carnival in, they've been told no. Why? Because of a rule Pat Casey made back in 1980? We need more than that. Carlos was at least trying to give the kids something to do in this city to keep them out of trouble. Those carnivals were great. I'm not a big person that goes to carnivals. I went a couple of times when they were in the park, but I'll tell you now, it works. It worked. And it raised money for what the neighborhood association was trying to do. And that was to create a community center out of Duval School. In case you missed it, Joe Good wrote an article over the weekend in regards to city properties reverting back to the city. Number one, I don't think a reverter clause in a purchase and sales agreement is binding. Because when I went to a real estate school, the purchase and sale agreement is done once you close on the property. Once you close on that property, that purchase and sale agreement is done. So if you were promised a new roof in the purchase and sale agreement and it didn't get put on there before you close, doesn't happen. That's the way I always learned it. You could probably fight it. Unless you put it in the deed, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I know in my heart, in my head, the reason why Paul wants that school is because he has a buyer for it, for more market rate housing. Because remember, he needs to clean up that area. He needs to get rid of all the riffraff. That's you that live in the Flint. That's you that live in the Flint. You're the riffraff. Got to get rid of you.
Well,
Got to make more
CJ,
market rate housing.
look, Jeff's right, with his comments. The reality is that, look, this is all politics. People in the Flint Neighborhood Association, Jeff and everybody in there, Joe Cavallo, yeah, they've done a lot of work unheralded. And as I said, even Kathy Assad, who they loved, got along with the mayors. And realistically, the Flint itself really continued to kind of held together a little bit better because they had a sense of community. But it really never, we've never recovered from the mills closing because people don't have money. And the businesses, they can't support the businesses. Not because they're not trying to make the Flint a better place, but they can only make that Flint a better place. They don't have the ability to bring in businesses. The mayor does, but he doesn't want to. All he wants to do is bring in market rate housing and push the people in the Flint out of their homes. Market rate housing is not a small business. Small businesses employ people. Market rate housing get rent from people. And most of it is not invested in this community. Virtually none of it is reinvested in this community. Listen, we've seen places revitalized like Portland, Maine. How did they revitalize Portland, Maine? They didn't put plywood on the windows. They didn't change flower pots. No. They renovated their port area. They put money into small businesses. It is now one of the nicest medium-sized cities in the United States. They've even got a place down there that, and I have to say that I haven't been there. I just haven't had the time. I go to Maine. I'm going to, as I've said many times, my father was born in Maine, lived there until he was 18, then came to Fall River. I've been going to Maine since I was a child on vacation in the summer. Now I go in the fall or the spring because then I can take my dog 24 hours on the beach to walk her. And I love Maine. Maine's a great place to vacation. I was very familiar with Portland. Portland's only 15 miles from Old Orchard Beach. And Portland had gone down pretty badly. That's, by the way, the home of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, for you people who actually know who Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is. But that place is great. And they got a place that serves French fries made in duck fat. which my son raves about. Said they're the best French fries he's ever had. And I will confess, I love French fries. One of these days, I'll get up there to Portland and try those things. But I normally, when I go up there now, I just chill out, walk the beach with the dog, and enjoy the 11 miles of beach. But that's the recipe to fix cooperativeness. This mayor has been in direct conflict with Carlos and the Flint Association most of the time. If you're not on his team, if you won't let him do what he wants, he's going to make your life miserable. And listen, they're going to attack Carlos every way, which, because he's not a potential candidate for mayor. But I'm going to tell you something. As you said, CJ, those people in the Flint Association cleaned up the Flint while Coogan was walking around with his head up his ass and his hands in his pockets. What is he, all of a sudden, he wants us to forget that as soon as he retired, he got out of Fall River. He only came back to run for political office. He moved back to Fall River to run for the school committee, to get rid of Meg Mayo Brown. We all know it. She wouldn't give you a principalship, and you wanted to take her out. Your friends on a school committee said, Paul, come back to the city, run for council. Everybody in the school department will vote for you because they know high five Paul. And we'll get rid of her. And then they drafted him for mayoral puppet, just like we have a presidential puppet. But what did he do for this community? In the entire time he lived in Fall River, did he advocate for the workers? No, he wasn't involved in a union. Was he part of a neighborhood association? No. Did he do cleanups and do stuff like that when he was just a regular? No, he becomes mayor and everything's for optics. Now Paul, I love Fall River. Let's beautify the Flint. Why didn't you, did you ever go to the Flint and work with Kathy Assad? Did you ever go to a Flint Pride Day? I don't think so. You're a phony politician. You're a phony politician. You don't do anything unless it's a photo op. And I'm going to tell you, other mayors have done the same crap. Let's look at Prospect Street. Remember putting a lipstick on a pig at Prospect? Remember all the bouquets they throw? Oh, we got to put all these facades. And that's exactly what they are. Facades. A facade is a covering. They're covering up the rot that's behind the facade. The businesses aren't there. The people aren't there. It's not functioning. It's like a car with no engine. I have never seen an administration do more damage to a city and virtually zero for the people of the city as this guy. If you think I dislike him, you're correct. But that will be the campaign. They will, if he runs for mayor, they will disparage his tenure as a leader. But he's been doing that for, I don't know how many years, 20 years, CJ, you know the number, but forever. Just like Kathy Assad. That dedication to a neighborhood and to the people of that neighborhood by Kathy Assad, by all neighborhood leaders who really care about their neighborhood. Show me years of consecutive dedication to any that Paul Coogan ever had before he became mayor. Please, I beg you, show it to me. With that, back to you.
Kathy Assad was dubbed the mother of neighborhood associations because she created the Flint Neighborhood Association and she built it up. And then other associations started to form, looking at all the good that Kathy was doing. Kathy Assad was an excellent woman. She was a wonderful teacher. I remember her on the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. She would be sitting in the foyer of St. Anthony of the Desert Church, handing out gift cards to the poor and needy. That's what she used to do. She never asked for recognition. She never did. Her daughter doesn't live in Fall River. She lives in Maryland. But she still comes back. And she does things here. She wants to know things. She keeps in touch with what's going on in Fall River. And I was surprised. No, as a matter of fact, I was horrified that somebody would turn around and go to Natalie Assad asking either for permission or her ideas on what a renovation of the Flint should be or look like. To invoke the name of Kathy Assad, somebody that you don't even know, somebody you have no idea what she has done. You are an opportunistic person. Very much. And I can't see supporting anyone who's opportunistic like that. I also cannot see somebody who, while he says he's not in the limelight, was right there to accept that citation from Laura Sampson. How come we didn't give a citation to Carlos? He's been doing it for 3 decades, 4 decades. He's been doing it forever. He's never gotten a citation from anyone. And he's never asked for one. How they conveniently forget things.
Well, no, they don't forget them, CJ. What they do is they ignore them, and because they're pushing their political agenda. Isn't it ironic that who's given a citation? Somebody that if the mayor, if the mayor passes gas, her head may explode. So, so you don't need to do the math. But Jeff was right about community, doing good for the neighborhood and for the people. That's correct. It's ironic that you mentioned, St. Anthony the Desert Church. That was church I grew up in. That was the church I was, that I attended growing up. And it's ironic. You talk about a sense of community. That's what's missing. See, Paul Coogan has a sense of political tics. It's the people who surround him and kiss his ass looking for something. That's the way they run things, and that's why we never get ahead. We have to regain a sense of community, and neighborhood leaders try to do that, but you need help. You speak about Lebanese, the Lebanese community, as most of these communities, have a long history of community. The French had the Francophone Society. They've had, the Corky Road Club. I don't know how active they are, but I know one thing, the Lebanese American Association was founded over 100 years ago. and they still meet regularly. There's a sense of community there. There are newly arrived immigrants from Lebanon there. There are people who are third and fourth generation Lebanese people there. And it's a sense of community. This is what helps people reinvigorate a community. When people care about their community, when people are willing, when you get them together and have the power of, united we stand, divided we fall. When you unite people in a sense of community, it's a lot more productive. But what they want to do is separate this community, like the Dems want to do. They want to label everybody. You're this, you're that. You're anti this, you're pro this, you're this. No, and we're all members of a community, member of the city. But Paul likes to divide everybody. And now he wants to take over and say, look what I'm going to do. Well, you haven't done crap your entire life. You are a Johnny-come-lately. You're a political opportunist who will forget about Fall River in a New York minute. The minute you're not the mayor. You forgot about Fall River the minute you retired and you left it. But you love Fall River in a pig's ass. And with that, CJ, back to you.
I don't know if I can match that. I was thinking, and it popped into my head again, something which says a lot about Fall River. Maybe people understand, maybe they don't. But it's an old quote. And that quote is, "The law, in its majestic equality, forbids rich and poor alike to sleep under bridges, to beg in the streets, and to steal their bread." That was Anatole France. Okay? What that means is we're supposed to all be equal. But in Fall River, unless you've got the cash to put in the pockets of the politicians, as a friend of mine says, how many envelopes did he get this week? Okay, you're useless. We're gonna clean you out of the neighborhood. Gotta get rid of you. Gotta clean the streets. I'm trying to clean that area out. Yeah, he's trying to get rid of you. He's starting in the Flint, and he's gonna go elsewhere, and it's gonna happen. And then you got to think about that quote. When they came for the Catholics, I did nothing. I wasn't Catholic. When they came for the Jews, I did nothing. I wasn't Jew. But now when they come for your neighborhood, what are you going to do? Because there's going to be nobody left to do anything. Because this administration is going to get all of you out of there. Because he wants all the Boston people to come to Fall River. Move into Fall River.
Yeah, they sure do. With the failing schools, the crime, the chained flower pots, sure they do. And listen, but as you said, but look at what they do. They want to divide people all the time. This is the greatest tactic of divide and conquer. It's an age-old system. You look at what the Democrats do on the federal level, they're doing the same thing. They want to separate everybody. They want to separate blacks, whites, by ethnicity, by religions. They're condemning Christians now. Christians, they're radicals because they believe in their faith. They find every single reason to divide people, because they know when the people get together, they are a force that can't be defeated. They want you. They want that, they give you all the letters, LGBTQT. That's another way to divide people. It doesn't matter what you are, who you are. As Martin Luther King said, people should be judged by the content of their character, not anything else. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're not a good person, you're not a good person. America was created on that concept. These people do not grasp what these politicians are doing, the Democratic politicians and the people like Paul Coogan. They are ripping apart the foundation of America. America was founded as a melting pot for everybody to come. That's why we came here. Religious freedom, for the most part. There were a few other reasons, but predominantly they came here for religious freedom. So Lutherans came here, Baptists came here, Quakers came here, everybody came here, and they lived in peace. They lived and actually created a country to keep those freedoms alive. And today, we look at a society where they're ripping those freedoms down by dividing us again. Don't let them do this. In this next election, get to the polls. And in the following election, clean this city out.
It's something that we definitely say all the time. It's not like it's something new. It's not like it's, I mean, you even had a co-chair of a ward committee say that the turnout is abysmal. We've been saying that forever. If you want to change in your community, you need to get out and vote. And you need to make sure that when you vote, you don't vote because he's a good guy. Oh, he fixed my pothole. Oh, he gave me a new sidewalk. Oh, he did this. Oh, he fixed my park. I don't care. Their job isn't personal favors. And if the only reason why you're voting for somebody is because of personal favors you got, your vote was bought and paid for. You're the problem. And you will remain the problem as long as you vote that way. It's time for a change in Fall River. It's time for Fall River to see. I happen to be watching the news. Chip has brought it up before about the European Union, how they're voting out all the liberals. Guess what? Guess who did it this weekend? Guess who did it this weekend? France! France did it this weekend. They got rid of the liberals. The leadership in France is all up in arms. Their final election is next weekend. And they're afraid that they have lost all power. The conservatives have taken over to affect change, to affect financial stability, to affect what we need, what they need. We need to do the same. Have you ever noticed when there's a presidential election, before just when the polls close, within 1 minute after the polls close, automatically the votes go to the Democratic candidate? This is why Massachusetts doesn't get anything. We don't get presidential candidates coming through Fall River. We get them after they're elected. We've had a couple, not many, but a couple. But they don't come through here when they're running for office. Why? Because they've got our vote. They've got it. They're all set. They're all set with that. We're dealing with a crisis of unimaginable proportions. We have a class war going on. We have neighborhood wars going on. We have a power-hungry dictator who feels it's time for him to take back all the buildings because they're not market rate housing the way he wants it. He wants what he wants, like it or not. And for Matt Thomas, the city's attorney, the real estate attorney for the city, to turn around and say that Carlos Caesar is going to voluntarily turn the building over to the city, what drugs was he on? I spoke with Carlos about that right after the article appeared. And he said, I don't know where he got that from. Carlos is represented by attorneys. The Flint Neighborhood Association has an attorney. And Carlos has done work on that building. And had the mayor not stopped the carnivals and the neighborhood block parties that Carlos used to throw to raise money to do more work on the DeVoe School, you might have a fully working community center. That school has been a food bank, a clothing bank for the people. And for Joe Good to bring out the fact that they're renting parking spaces for $40 a month, but she doesn't say why. I'll tell you why. The Flint Neighborhood Association got hit with a $20,000 bill for rainwater tax. And they had to pay for that. And the only way they could pay for it was to rent those parking spaces, which, by the way, was a service because it freed up parking on the streets, especially during snowstorms. No, we don't talk about that, do we? We can't talk about that. Can't give anyone credit where credit
Come on,
is due.
DJ. Stop actually doing the reporter's job. The chief propaganda minister, Joe Good, wrote that article intentionally to skew everything. She didn't go and say, why do you do this? She didn't know that they have to pay a water bill. It was about, it was a promo for Coogan again. Let's try to do a torpedo job on a potential candidate. But the reality is, listen, everything's upside down because this is the problem with, this is why one of the first things they do when they want to take over people in a country or a city is control the media, just like they did with Biden. Did you see those people after the debate? One guy said, I'm going to jump off a bridge. They were crying. They had their hands in their head crying. They're holding their head. Oh, my God, he is decrepit. He is. They won't show it. And when they did show it, they lied. They said, oh, those are cheap fakes. He doesn't walk like an Egyptian. No, that's not it. They're faking that. They're not giving you the whole story. No, you guys are covering up the reality. This is what media does. They've conned you, even with the labels. The liberals are not liberal. The conservatives are not conservatives. Conservatives like smaller government. That's what the country's supposed to be. Government is not supposed to be your mommy and your daddy. Thomas Jefferson said, paraphrasing now, not exact, when a government becomes large enough to give you everything you need, it can take everything you have. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's what the liberals do. They love big government, they love taxing, and they love taking your money. And they will take everything away from you, just like Paul Coogan wants to do. More taxes, even though we're the fault. We spent more money than we should have, but now you pay. This is nuts, okay? And I've said it again and I'll say it again. There's no such thing as a liberal, and there's no such thing as a conservative or a moderate. Those are labels. Because everybody in the planet that I've ever ran into is conservative about what they have. Think about that. You want to give up anything you got? Hell no. You're not taking that away from me, pal, without a fight. That's mine. I'm a conservative. But you're not. Because you know what you are? You're a liberal. Because you say, I want to get this, and I want to get that, and I want this, and I want that, and I don't have it, but I'm going to get it, and I want you to give it to me. Well, now you're being liberal. Oh, liberal, give me some stuff. Everybody likes that. And you know what? And there are moderates who are not conservative or liberal. And you know what they're moderate about? Things that they don't give a shit about. Something you don't care about. That's what you're moderate about. Because everybody is when you try to classify, these things are they're only words. It's semantics. And it's semantics to use to allow them to manipulate the way you think about something. Just judge it for what it is. Is it good? Is it bad? Are you indifferent? Well, that doesn't mean anything to me. Okay, I'm a moderate. That's me because I got it. I'm a conservative. I like that stuff. I'd like to get that, so I'm a liberal. That's all horse shit. Life is really simple. It's either good or bad. You either want it or don't want it. All these labels are horse manure. You judge people on the content of their character. Are they good or are they bad? You live this life like a mirror. You reflect back exactly what you get. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you. You're not nice to me, I am going to be extra bad to you. But that's what they don't want you to do. They want to create an army of all these groups to hate the other side. And that's what neighborhood associations fight against by bringing everybody together. But you get a politician like Paul going to tell you how to, he's going to save your neighborhood when he abandoned this city. You're going to have some CFO who's never going to pay a dime of the taxes that they're going to dump on us. Say, okay, just keep taxing them. You think some out-of-town city administrator who's never going to pay a dime of the water, sewer increases or any other increases is going to gives a shit? They don't. So, yeah, they do push their personal agendas to a degree. But they're not out of touch with the neighborhood. The neighborhood is out of touch with them. So I have to disagree with you. Because remember, I was a union leader. And I heard that all the time. Oh, the union, the union, the union. Well, you're the union. You're the neighborhood. You don't like that agenda? Take that neighborhood association over. Take it over. Go there and say, I'm running for president. I don't like what this neighborhood association. You do not represent this neighborhood. I've heard that so much ad nauseum. But will you take the time to go there and do the things that they do? You may disagree with what they're doing. Well, go to the neighborhood association and voice your opinion. That's like saying, right now, everybody's bitching about Coogan. And who do we always blame? We don't blame him. He's just an asshole politician. We blame the 40,000 people that don't show up to vote. The 7,000 ticks that voted for him, they're voting for their own agenda. Aren't they? That's exactly what they're doing. And guys like CJ and I are shoveling shit against the tide by going and voting against these people. But we can't outvote them because the other 40,000 people are sitting in their house complaining after the fact. You don't like what a neighborhood association is doing? Take it over. I ran a union for 25 years. I had people run against me a whole bunch of times. I got elected 14 times. The majority of people are in favor of my agenda. If they weren't, they could have come to the polls and voted me out. And the difference was, when you're running for a union position, most people show up to vote. So the majority of people, you'll get a 95 to 100% turnout at those unions. So you get an accurate reflection. But I don't want to hear that stuff about, agendas at these things, because, they're not, they didn't create this in a vacuum. They're not dictators that you can't get out. They're not Paul Coogan, who you have to run a recall to get out of office. Once you're in, you're stuck with them, unless you want to go through the trouble of having a recall. These people are volunteers. They're not getting paid. I didn't agree with a lot of union leaders. I don't agree with a lot of neighborhood association agendas. Some of them have an attitude of kissing the mayor's ass. Other people will fight for what they agree. But they're running the neighborhood. So, but you can, neighborhoods control the neighborhood. If 15 people are running a neighborhood association in a neighborhood that's got 25,000 people in it, whose fault is it? Nobody wants to step up. This is the problem with our country now. Everybody wants to sit back and complain about the direction we're going, but they don't want to go to the polls. We've been saying that since the first show we ever did. We said two things: follow the money, do your homework, and vote. And if you vote, okay, we vote. We're complaining, but we got a right to complain because we try. We go there. And I'm not upset with those other people. They are doing exactly what we're doing. They're going there and voting for their agenda. But the 40,000 people who don't participate, the people in the neighborhoods who don't participate, that's on them. I chose to be part of the union. I went to every union meeting before I ran for president. Never missed a union meeting. And then when I was disenchanted with the way the union was going, I ran for president. And I remained president until I was ready to retire. But I stepped up and said, I don't agree. This is my position. And the members of that union supported my agenda. And I ran it for a very long time because obviously I was satisfying the majority of those people, because I had to run every 2 years. At first it was every year, then we changed it to every 2 years. And every year I was on a ballot. Every 2 years I was on a ballot. You didn't like it. And like I said, we had a 90% turnout rate. So at least you got a reflection. But what irritates both CJ and I is the fact that, how long for the last, I don't know how many elections, we've got 14 or 15,000 people controlling the destiny of this city with 55,000 registered voters. And that's wrong. And healthy debate is always good, but debate is just debate without action. And I'll close with this. As a wise man once said, words without deeds are worthless weeds. And with that, CJ, back to you.
We've got some new supporters and new commentary coming in, and I greatly appreciate that. But again, we have a community that has been divided, continues to be divided, will always be divided until they stand up and they say, enough of this. Okay? And you're right, Spin Zone. Knowing the type of individual you are, I think you have the capability to think of the overall picture, not your personal agenda. And that's true for everybody.
But
For everybody.
yeah, no, he's right. But in reality, people like us who debate vigorously, everybody has an agenda. Let's face it. We're going to vote for people politically who are aligned with what we want to see done politically. We are going to align ourselves with people who want to do with the neighborhood what we want to do. But we also participate in the process, and I'm sure this viewer does. Obviously, he's making a cogent argument for his position, but the reality is I'm a pragmatist. I look at things objectively. Everybody has an agenda. I'm not going to pretend that I'm some, I do this strictly for, I'm like Don Quixote tilting at windmills. I'm living in some dream world, to dream the impossible dream. No, I'm not that guy. I'm a total pragmatist, and I'm going to know, but I'm also a guy who lived with the union. And when I was a union president, I didn't run a union. The membership ran a union. If I said, let's go left, and the body said no, the majority wants to go right, we went right. This is why we say voting is so important. And listen, you and I have been in this game a long time. We will fight to the death for what we believe in, and we will vote for the agenda that we feel is in line and in its best interest for us and our community and our neighborhood. But we will live with the outcome of an election. We always do. We have to. We got to live with Biden. The fact is that we will live with that, but that doesn't mean we can't be frustrated as hell that 40,000 people don't get off their ass, or people in the neighborhood who are disenchanted with the way that things are going don't get up and get involved. All we ask is get involved. You outvote us, we'll live with it. And it's great to have debate like this. I love it. This was a great, with Fiat. Don Quixote was written by Miguel de Cervantes, who went to the University of Salamanca, the oldest college in the world, where my daughter studied for her master's degree in Spanish. That was one of the greatest. It's my favorite all-time play, one of my favorite all-time books. But it talks about just that, to dream the impossible dream, to try. But it was about fighting the fight. And that's all we ask. People, get off your ass and fight the fight. We will all live with the outcome. If we get a vote, listen, if we get 70, 80, 90% of the vote, I don't care if election for the rest of our lives. I'll just say I'm in a minority, and we accept that fact. And it is and by the way, Don Quixote was a seriously, no. Yeah, you're right. And who's that on? It's on both. Neighborhood associations should be more aggressive. I agree with you. Neighborhood associations should be more active. Should be more active in promoting themselves and letting everybody in the neighborhood know what they're doing and what they're available to. But they also get bogged down in trying to get things done. But you're right. It's on both. Nobody is blameless in this thing. The only thing I say is people who go to the polls and vote their conscience, you can't blame them. They at least participated in the process. And this is the problem with this country. They don't want people to vote unless they vote their way. We just want people to vote. And I'll close with this. We had a good show, great debate. I'll close again with one of my favorite quotes from another guy who was, to say the least, polarizing. Malcolm X. I'm for the truth, no matter who tells it, and I'm for justice, no matter who it's for. So if we all participated, we can be not happy with the outcome, but we can at least say, okay, The majority of people, this is the way they want to go, and we live in not a democracy, but a constitutional republic. And they will represent the people. And until the majority of people vote, it's not really even a constitutional republic. And with that, CJ, back to you.
Well, one of the problems with our constitutional republic is we have politicians who think their job is for life. And that's not the way it was created. But that's another show. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day. Bye bye.